from the Don and Lorena Meyer studio at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln College of Journalism and Mass Communications, this is Nebraska Nightly.
Welcome to Nebraska Nightly. I'm Hayden Hudson.
And I'm Elena Tomish. Our top story today.
More than 6.4 million travelers from our region are expected to travel 50 miles or more for the holiday. That's an all-time high for Thanksgiving and nearly 124,000 more travelers than last year. Nebraska Nightly's Sophie Farrell has the story.
That's right, you guys. This Thanksgiving holiday season is going to be a busy one. So if you plan on flying, I went to the Lincoln Airport to learn some helpful tips for you. Thanksgiving less than a week away, it is expected that we see an increase in travel for the holiday season. Whether choosing to travel by plane or by car, it is important to stay prepared for what situations may arise. I talked to Eden Cruz, and she tells me what she looks out for when traveling.
So I would recommend always checking your flight status, keep an eye on the radar, and also just have friends on standby.
Rachel Barth, the Director of Air Service Development Strategic Marketing, says this could be the busiest Thanksgiving they've seen yet. Here's her advice for a smoother travel.
So we really do want people to pay attention to their airline specifically so they know if there's a cancellation or if there's a delay. That way they can kind of time when they need to be here.
National travel numbers are expected to set new records with an estimated 79.7 million travelers.
Well, thank you, Sophie. AAA encourages travelers to develop their plan now and consider travel insurance, which provides compensation for flight cancellations, delays, and lost luggage. The abandoned Village Inn at 29th and O Street was destroyed by a severe fire Wednesday morning. As a result, the building is being demolished. Firefighters put out the blaze after heavy smoke filled the air. Lincoln's Fire and Rescue initially entered the building to fight the fire, but had to evacuate due to concerns the building would collapse. Lincoln Electric System temporarily shut off power to homes south of the building, which affected nearly 100 people. Power has been restored. LFR says no one was inside the building during the fire, and they are currently investigating the cause.
A Lincoln man will face more than a decade in prison after carrying drugs on an Amtrak train. Matthew Erickson is now sentenced to 10 years and 1 month in prison. The penalty is for intent to distribute 500 grams or more of a methamphetamine mixture and also a large amount of marijuana. The Lancaster County Drug Force received a tip in early December 2023 that Erickson and his girlfriend were transporting drugs on a Lincoln-bound Amtrak. The train arrived from Denver on December 6th and police searched their bags. Erickson denied carrying drugs, but the search warrant uncovered the drugs and drug paraphernalia in his bag.
Governor Jim Pillen has named Daryl Bohack the new director of the Nebraska State Historical Society. Pillen appointed him based on Bohack's view of leadership. He will oversee the collection that preserves and shares Nebraska's history. Bohack retired from the Nebraska National Guard 18 months ago, where he served as the Major General. One of his top priorities is improving financial accountability after former director Trevor Jones was charged with theft by deception.
Dean of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's College of Arts and Sciences, Mark Button, will serve as interim executive vice chancellor and chief academic officer. This is after Katherine Ankerson announced her retirement on Wednesday. Button will oversee the university's academics and is in charge of the absence of the chancellor. Chancellor Rodney Bennett says he is grateful that Button answered this call to leadership and is qualified to take the role.
A Lincoln mother is sentenced to more than 100 years in prison for the murder of her 22-month-old son. Brittany Cook's son, Rudy, was admitted to CHI Health St. Elizabeth's Hospital with numerous injuries consistent with abuse, including a brain bleed and a broken leg. Rudy died 5 days later. Cook faces 70 years for the child abuse that resulted in the death of her son. An additional 25 to 35 years was added to the initial sentence for failing to stop the abuse and seek timely medical treatment.
A Lincoln High School held its annual Hoops for Hopes fundraiser Friday, November 15th. The fundraiser is held by the Student Council Committee every year. Teachers split into two teams and play a friendly yet competitive game of basketball. Teachers also performed with the dance team and participated in a knockout game. Not only is this event fun, but it's for a good cause.
This event has been a long-standing tradition at Lincoln High, long before my time of even working here. I'd like to say we've done the event for 13 to 15 years, and it was an event always put on by Student Council to help raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
So what happens is teachers go against teachers in a staff-versus-staff basketball game, and then you have students, coaches, and referees, and they're selected off of the basketball teams, both girls and boys. And then we also have students and parents, and everybody in the community can come and watch. It's just a $5 admission fee, and all those proceeds go to Make-A-Wish.
All proceeds go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation and hopes to grant wishes to children that are critically ill.
Well, although game day highs will be close to 50 degrees tomorrow, the first few games of the past few seasons have been hot.
With Nebraska changing sidelines prior to this season, one meteorology class here at UNL wanted to see just how the sun impacts where the Scarlet and Cream once stood on game day.
Nebraska Nightly's Harmon Johnson has more from Memorial Stadium.
This past offseason, Nebraska football switched sidelines from the east to the west here at Memorial Stadium for strategic reasons.
We're a very kind group. It's Nebraska Nights, which is awesome. But for like 2 hours, we can cheer after the game for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Let's make it hard on them. And so we go places sometimes, and it's hard, right? It's hard to communicate on the bench. That'll be hard.
However, one thing they might not have considered was the weather.
Weather is always a factor in Nebraska, especially during the early games of the football season. Last year, on a 90-degree day against Michigan, the Wolverines enjoyed the cool shroud of the press box, while the Huskers struggled both on offense and in finding shade.
And there's been kind of talk over the past couple of years as to like why we aren't on the west sidelines. You've had other coaches. I remember Jim Harbaugh back in 2023 after he played us here. It was 90 degrees that day, and he's like, well, I don't understand why they were on the other sideline. I mean, it's so much warmer over there.
Dominic Ferraro is a student in the capstone course Advanced Synoptic Meteorology. Following Nebraska's move to the west sideline, Ferraro and his group decided they wanted to test if the move was strategic in more than one way.
Ultimately, we can compare that with the studies that have already been done on temperature and wet bulb temperature and how your athletes perform in that temperature, and really have a definitive answer of like, is moving to the other sideline going to provide a competitive advantage for our teams?
On October 19th, while the team was away in Bloomington, Ferraro got free rein of Tom Osborne Field to conduct his experiment. In just the few short hours before cloud cover skewed the results, Ferraro found that the east sideline reached a higher temperature than the west. With that knowledge, Ferraro forecasts that the data will not only help the team succeed, but keep fans and game day staff safe.
You've got 90,000 people in here every day, and I know the volunteer groups they have working medical duty on those days and risk mitigation. If you understand how, like, what environments are going to be particularly dangerous for fans and for players, and you can kind of have more resources, maybe more bottled water, more information out before the game, and you can better inform your audience.
The initial experiment might be over, but before long, Ferraro hopes the data he collected becomes a standard metric at every football game, and the next round of students will continue down the path he helped pave.
Get a week or two of data in the summer. I think that's the optimal environment. We had, a day that was good for the early part, but I think this is just the beginning for what we could learn about the environment here at Memorial Stadium.
Reporting from Memorial Stadium, I'm Harmon Johnson, Nebraska Nightly.
Well, Hayden, obviously there's different weather throughout all the stadium. On game days, the stadium becomes the third largest city in Nebraska, and so it just makes sense, doesn't it?
You know what? I didn't know that, but that's pretty funny. I know how hot it gets, especially in the earlier year with the student section, so this makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Thank you, Harmon. Well, Dominic was at the stadium earlier, but now he's in our studio weather station with your first look at weather for the game. Dominic?
Thank you, Elena. Well, fortunately, we're not talking 90s tomorrow, and if we were seeing 90s in late November, we'd have bigger issues on our hands. Tomorrow, Nebraska faces Wisconsin in a game where the winner achieves bowl eligibility. Starting off tomorrow morning, much cooler. Temperatures will be into the lower 30s, partly cloudy skies. We'll get a little bit of a clearing close to noon here, 46 degrees as we work our way out into those tailgates tomorrow. Then kickoff tomorrow at 2:30 p.m., 55 degrees, partly cloudy skies. We'll see winds east-southeast at 5 miles per hour. We're going to way into the evening then. Temperatures only getting down into the lower 50s. And, as you're working your way out to potentially the volleyball game afterwards, definitely keep a jacket on you. It'll cool off into the overnight hours, but looking to be great weather and great fall weather to close out our last game here in Memorial, celebrate the seniors, and hopefully see a Husker win. We'll have the rest of your forecast for the capital city and a look at your Thanksgiving forecast coming up after the break.
Thank you, Dominic. Well, coming up on Nebraska Nightly, a new nomination for Attorney General.
A look at mortgage prices.
And a missing man in Wisconsin is found alive.
All after the break.
Never stops. And at the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, your blood could help save lives. Right now, only 7% of the population donates blood. But imagine if there were more.
We're sitting at below a 7-day level of supply of all blood types across the board. So every blood type is important, and we need all donors of all types to come in and donate right now.
At the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, they believe that all types make a strong blood supply.
Welcome back to Nebraska Nightly.
Meteorologist Dominic Ferraro has your 7-day forecast and what to expect this Thanksgiving week. Dominic?
Thank you, Elena. Beautiful fall day we got going here in the capital city. Temperatures 49 degrees, mostly sunny skies. Got a light wind out of the south, but other than that, not bad for late November here in Lincoln. Satellite view right now across the country. We got a low pressure system that's been kind of circulating off the eastern part of the country, but that's make way for a nice strong ridge over the central part of the country, which has helped keep us clear over the past couple days and keeping us the same way this afternoon right now. Some cloud cover coming up off the western coast there. We talked about that bomb cyclone that was working its way closer to the country. That's kind of started to stall out over the close to the northwestern part of the country, but definitely bringing some rain and some snow there over the past couple days. Closer look at our satellite here near the Lincoln area. Got some wispier upper level clouds just kind of working their way down with that upper level flow as we build more into that ridge, but really just a beautiful fall day for us here, and clear radar. We like to see that, especially with potentially some chances of snow here in the forecast. Current temperatures across the state right now, 59 degrees in North Platte, 64 up in Valentine and in Scotts Bluff, so much warmer on the western side of the state. Cooler on the eastern side, 49 in Norfolk and 44 in Omaha. Looking ahead to your forecast for tonight, we'll see mostly clear skies, temperatures dropping down into the lower 20s. We'll keep that light south wind working our way into tomorrow for game day. High temperature of 60 degrees, winds east-southeast between 5 and maybe even 10 miles per hour as we work our way in kind of the peak solar heating hours of the day. We can kind of get an increase in those wind speeds. Then tomorrow night, 31 degrees for our low. If you're heading out to the volleyball game, also Nebraska versus Wisconsin, definitely going to want to take a jacket with you there, as we'll drop below freezing tomorrow night. Winds out of the south-southwest, but expected to be less than 5 miles per hour. And the rest of your week coming up ahead here. Sunday, seeing now an increasing chance of rain and maybe even a few flurries, highs into the upper 40s for most of the state. And then Monday, keeping cool. However, that sunshine returns, and into Tuesday, maybe it might crack 50 degrees once again, but a much different story as we work our way closer to Thanksgiving. 40 degrees on Wednesday, small chance of snow showers. Moving into Thanksgiving Day, high temperature of 36 degrees, so definitely going to want to take a coat to those family Thanksgiving events, and it could again see some flurries there. And if you look at the low temperatures, dropping down into the teens on both Wednesday and Thursday. And moving into Friday, we'll see that sunshine return. 40 degrees for the high temperature there. Temperatures in the overnight hours still going to be cooler though. But for right now, definitely keep an eye on the snow Wednesday and Thursday for those Thanksgiving travel plans, and make sure you have a plan just in case things go awry. But have a safe and happy holiday from here at Nebraska Nightly, and we'll toss it back to you at the desk.
Matt Gaetz took himself out of consideration for Attorney General. This comes after pushback from members of both parties. Gaetz has been in hot water over a federal investigation regarding sex trafficking, but has denied any involvement. In a statement, Gaetz said, "While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition." Gaetz also announced that he will not be returning to Congress next year.
President-elect Donald Trump moved quickly to nominate Pam Bondi as Attorney General. Bondi was the first woman to serve as Attorney General in the state of Florida, and she also worked as an attorney on Trump's first impeachment case. In a social media post, Trump said, quote, "Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again."
There's bad news if you're looking to buy a house in the next 2 years. Freddie Mac reports this week's average rate on standard 30-year fixed mortgage is 6.84%. It's It's the 7th weekly increase over the past 8 weeks, and economists and recent forecasts say rates are expected to stay stuck above 6% for at least the next 2 years. That means Americans hoping to become homeowners won't be getting any meaningful relief from lower borrowing costs.
Well, there's a relatively new social media platform gaining steam. It's called Blue Sky and now has millions of followers. But what is it and how does it differ from other apps? Maribel Gonzalez spoke to some of its users to find out.
Attention social media ecosystem, Blue Sky has entered the chat. The platform describes itself as decentralized, a place where users can create custom feeds, giving them more control over their experience, says its CEO, Jay Graber.
It's sort of like subscribing to magazines, and so people who like cat pictures are just looking at the cat feed. So this lets people get really creative and discover their communities.
More than 115,000 U.S. ex-users deactivated their the day after the election in a move dubbed the Exodus, according to digital intelligence platform SimilarWeb. But X also had its highest web traffic all year that same day. A senior culture reporter at TechCrunch says this is evidence of further siloing Americans.
I think that's something that we should pay attention to. Like, will this become a quote unquote liberal echo chamber? Is X becoming a conservative echo chamber?
Blue Sky CEO says focusing on the user experience helped them hit 20 million this week.
We always focus a lot on trust and safety, making sure that users have an ability to have an experience that's, free from bots and harassment and spam.
Those just some of the reasons why new user Nick Parra says he ditched X for Blue Sky.
I think everybody, at least in my circle, was feeling some sort of hostility from being on the app, and it was really taking over what was supposed to be like a carefree, fun, like jovial place to laugh.
Blue Sky is growing, but still has a long way to go to catch up to its competitors like X, which reported 550 million monthly users in March.
It's been more than 2 months since 44-year-old Wisconsin man vanished on a fishing trip. CNN's Whitney Wild reports after weeks of searching the bottom of a lake, police now know that he's alive and where he is.
Good evening, it's Ryan Borgward. I'm in my apartment. I am safe, secure, no problem.
Ryan Borgward speaking barely above a whisper in this video he says was recorded November 11th. These are his first comments since disappearing in August. Police now believe the husband and father of 3 is alive and living in Eastern Europe with no plans to come back to the U.S. Though Green Lake, Wisconsin Sheriff Mark Podol says Borgward talks to investigators regularly.
And our biggest concern that we had was if he was safe and well. We asked him a number of questions that pertain to him and his family that he would only know. And then we asked him for a video of himself.
The search for Borgward began this summer after he failed to return home from a day of kayaking and fishing. Law enforcement found his capsized kayak, car, and other belongings, but no trace of him.
While we might have stopped the search on Green Lake, that didn't stop our search continuing to look for Ryan.
The Green Lake County Sheriff now says he planned an elaborate escape. Borgward told investigators he paddled his kayak and a child-sized boat out into the lake, overturned the kayak and dumped his phone in the water, paddled the inflatable boat to shore, got on an e-bike and rode through the night to Madison. There, he boarded a bus, went on to Detroit, and eventually crossed into Canada and hopped on a plane to Europe.
In our communications, we are expressing the importance of his decision to return home, clean up the mess that he has created.
A digital forensic search of Borgward's laptop revealed that he replaced the hard drive and cleared his browser history on the day of the disappearance. Podol says investigators found that the 44-year-old moved funds to a foreign bank, changed his email, communicated with a woman in Uzbekistan, purchased airline cards, and took out a $375,000 life insurance policy in January. Now that Borgward has been found alive, law enforcement is laying out potential charges.
The information that the Green Lake County has at this point leads us to an obstructing charge.
As for exactly why Borgward faked his own death and fled the country, that's not clear, but his family says they want him home. Coming up on Nebraska Nightly.
Husker football takes on the Badgers.
Husker volleyball takes on the Badgers.
And both men and women's Husker basketball face off with Creighton.
Many of the brands you love don't love animals like you do. Look at the labels of products you use for a bunny logo signifying they don't lab test on animals. Check the label for those who aren't able. Start making the shift by visiting crueltyfreekitty.com today.
Well, it is a whirlwind weekend of sports as the Huskers match up against the Blue Jays and the Badgers in 4 different sports.
Jackson Ingolstadt has more on this busy weekend in Lincoln. Jackson?
Well, thank you guys. This has been a huge week for Husker sports, and even though it's Friday, we are nowhere near finished. Tomorrow, Husker football is going to have their last home game of the season. The 5-5 Huskers will face off the 5-5 Wisconsin Badgers, as both teams will be fighting for bowl eligibility. The Huskers started the season red hot, going 5-1, but have since lost 4 straight, 3 of which were by a 1-possession margin. Here's what Coach Matt Rule had to say about the team's hope to achieve their season goal of a bowl game.
Gravity of the situation is not lost on them, and I know how much they'd like to win. I know how much they'd like to be the ones who broke through. At some point someone has to do it. And lots of guys have tried, and we haven't been able to do it for a long time. And so someone's got to break through and get that 6th win.
This is the Huskers' second to last game of the season, and Husker fans everywhere are hoping for something special. The game will kick off at 2:30 Central Standard Time and can be watched on Fox Sports. Wednesday night, Husker volleyball took down the Iowa Hawkeyes in straight sets. This was the 40th matchup between the two teams in their history, and believe it or not, the Huskers have won every single time. This makes it the 24th straight win for the Huskers, and they are now standing 27-1 on the season. Once again, we're having a Husker and Badger matchup tomorrow, but this time it's volleyball. This will be the Huskers' final home game, which also means this will be the final game at the Bob for 5 Nebraska seniors. Here's what senior Lexi Rodriguez had to say about her last game in Lincoln.
It's definitely something that's bittersweet. I obviously don't want my time here to end, but I think that it's a time for all 5 of us to kind of celebrate, and then it also just gives you a different type of motivation going into the last few weeks of season.
Against Wisconsin will be at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time in the Bob. The game can be watched on Big Ten Network. As for Nebraska ball, today we have a local treat. The men's and women's Husker basketball teams will both be facing off against the Creighton Blue Jays in Omaha. Husker men's basketball is hoping to give the Blue Jays their first loss of the season, while the ranked women's team will try to hold on to their undefeated record. The women's game is happening right now as they started at 4 p.m., while the men's game follows at 7. That is all I got for sports today, so I'm going to send it back to you guys at the desk.
Coming up on Nebraska Nightly.
The UNL Dairy Store comes to Innovation Campus.
And a furry friend is saved.
Stick with us.
1 in 3 Husker students struggle with food insecurity. Husker Pantry addresses food insecurity and a welcoming space by providing free food and personal items to UNL students in need. Due to high demand, the pantry often runs out of essential items. Help keep the pantry stocked by donating the most needed items. From canned food to personal items and cleaning supplies, you can make a difference by donating. Learn how to donate by visiting pantry.unl.edu.
Welcome back. Well, outside of sports, there are plenty of things going on in Lincoln this weekend.
Gracie Jones is here with all the details. Gracie?
The holiday season is just around the corner, and so are these local events. Head on down to the Sandhills Global Event Center this Sunday, November 24th, for the first ever Nebraska Holiday Market. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., take part in some holiday cheer from local vendors and be entertained to win a fully decorated tree. Admission is $8. Do you have a love for the opera? Showing at Ross Theater this Sunday, November 24th, is at 1 p.m. is Gianmarco Bianchi's Tosca, pre-recorded from the Met. General admission is $24 and $5 for UNL students. The UNL Dairy Store will be marking their rounds on Nebraska Innovation Campus, Monday, November 25th, in the form of a pop-up store. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the first floor, you can get your hands on Husker gift box featuring premium quality meats and cheeses. UNL students, faculty, and staff get a 10% discount. That's all for entertainment. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Gracie. You've seen stories about people thanking first responders who saved their lives.
And this is one of those stories, sort of, only the survivor has 4 legs. Sammy Salina has the story.
An empty home in Scandia, once filled with a family of 4.
Pearlie was in the house and the kitty was in the house. And
Nate Meidel,
Menards, grabbed a quick sandwich,
and partner Katie Farragher were running errands on October 26th.
Phone rings and it's Winnie, the neighbor,
saying that there's smoke coming from your home.
Put out the fire, and that's when I found Pearl. I just felt part of her head behind a couch.
Tim O'Neill with Scandia Fire brought out a limp pup.
She was not doing well.
Stephen Greenhow and his mHealth Fairview EMS team tried to give her oxygen, but the mask didn't fit.
And it just wasn't working.
Then Washington County Sheriff deputies improvised.
Well, we might have a cup in our squad. We'll take a look.
They had cut a hole in it. I put some tape on the end of a McDonald's cup and started filling it with oxygen.
Yeah, a few minutes later, Tim came out with our kitty cat, did everything they could. It was too late for the kitty, but, well, we have Pearlie.
Good girl. Pearl, the pit bull,
We don't take Pearl for a walk, she takes us for a walk.
is nearly back to normal.
Pure heroic effort and good people, and here we are now, you know.
And her dad wanted to give thanks.
Hello, my name is Nathan Meidel.
So he left a voicemail to the EMS chief.
We don't have children, but, you know, we have a dog we love and a kitty cat that they did everything they possibly could for. I hope you're really proud of them, and I hope you can pat the entire crew on the back for us.
But there's no better way to pay back gratitude than face to face.
Oh, baby girl.
That once lifeless dog.
A lot more energy than when we first met her.
Now the life of the party, thanks to them.
We see a lot of bad stuff being first responders, and to get just this little bit of good, I guess that's the reason, that we do it.
Nate and Katie miss their cat. Their house needs to be gutted and emptied.
It's a room full of heroes.
But right now, they are full of gratitude.
Glad you guys are doing okay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Sammy Solina, KARE 11 News.
You know, Elena, I actually have 7 dogs and 1 cat at home, so I understand the bond between pet and owner.
Really powerful story. Well, let's take one last look at weather with meteorologist Dominic Ferraro.
Thank you, Elena. As we were talking about yesterday, nice weather for the game tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, temperatures up into the 60s. Misled you guys. Sunday, we're not looking at that rain chance. I got a little ahead of myself. However, that rain chance is still on, and potentially a few snow showers for those days leading into Thanksgiving. Monday will start the week, however, mostly sunny skies, cooler, temperatures down into the lower to mid 40s for most of us. But, nice to see that snow chance. Isn't quite as early as we thought, but, we haven't seen snow here, or we haven't had a November in Nebraska where we haven't had snow since 2017. So, unfortunately, we're due.
I'm willing to wait until December if everybody else is.
I love snow. I wish it would come earlier, but that's just me.
As long as it's not at Memorial Stadium tomorrow, I think we'll be okay.
Exactly, and it's going to get even colder. I'm filming at that Iowa game. I'm very nervous. It's going to be freezing cold. Also, I did want to give a quick update on that Nebraska women's basketball game. They're currently up 37-35 on Creighton at the half.
There we go.
Hopefully we can move up to 6-0.
Love to see it, love to see it. Well, Nebraska Nightly is a production of the University of Nebraska's College of Journalism and Mass Communications.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you on December 3rd on Nebraska Nightly.